She's a real rancher's wife, unlike you. My mother's words cut through the air like a knife as she stood in my grandmother's kitchen. No, Jessica's kitchen now. My brother's wife smiled smugly, already rearranging the copper pots that had hung in the same spots for 40 years. My name is Eleanor Mason, and at 32, I was watching my family hand over my grandmother's beloved Silver Creek ranch to my sister-in-law, completely ignoring Gran's final wishes. The ranch needs someone who'll be here full-time, my father added, not meeting my eyes. Jessica and Michael will keep it running properly. You're too busy with your wildlife research to manage a ranch. I ran my hand along the weathered kitchen counter, remembering all the mornings I'd spent here with Gran, learning her secret recipes, listening to her stories about the land that had been in our family for 3 generations. The same land I'd spent every summer on since I was 6, learning every creek, every trail, every secret it held. Besides, Jessica chimed in, adjusting her perfectly styled hair. Michael and I have plans to modernize. This place is stuck in the past. We're thinking of adding an event venue, maybe turning some of the pastures into an ATV park. My stomach churned at her words, but I kept my face neutral. Gran would have hated that. She'd spent her life preserving the natural beauty of Silver Creek, protecting the delicate ecosystem that made it special. You're awfully quiet, Eleanor, Michael said, throwing an arm around Jessica's shoulders. No protests, no arguments about Gran's wishes. I smiled, surprising them all. Congratulations. I hope you enjoy the ranch. Their triumphant expressions faltered slightly at my calm acceptance. They'd expected a fight, tears, maybe even threats of legal action. Instead, I picked up my bag and headed for the door. That's it, my mother called after me. You're not going to cause a scene. I turned back one last time, taking in the kitchen where I'd spent so many happy moments with Gran. No scene needed. Everything's exactly as it should be. What my family didn't know, what Gran and I had kept between us during those final months, was about to change everything. I climbed into my truck, fighting back a smile as I remembered our last conversation. They'll try to take it, Gran had said, her voice weak but her eyes sharp as ever. Your parents, Michael, they'll think they know best. But you, Eleanor, you're the only one who truly understands this land. She'd squeezed my hand, pressing a worn envelope into it. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. Don't let them see this until they've shown their true colors. That envelope had sat in my safe for 3 months, waiting for exactly this moment. As I drove away from the ranch, I could see Jessica and Michael in my rearview mirror, already measuring the old barn for their planned renovations. My phone buzzed with texts from my mother, questioning my easy acceptance of their decision. What they didn't realize was that Gran had seen this coming. She'd watched as Jessica played the perfect daughter-in-law, as Michael pretended to care about ranching while eyeing the property's development potential. She'd noticed how my parents gradually dismissed my connection to Silver Creek, despite the fact that I'd spent every free moment helping her maintain it while pursuing my career in wildlife biology. I pulled over at my favorite spot, a hilltop overlooking the ranch's north pasture. The late afternoon sun painted the landscape in shades of gold, illuminating the wild horses that still roamed this section of the property. This was what Gran had protected all these years, what Jessica and Michael would destroy with their modernization plans. Opening my phone, I sent a single text to Mr. Harrison, Gran's lawyer. It's time. His reply came immediately. Documents ready. Meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. I smiled, watching a red-tailed hawk circle lazily overhead. Gran always said timing was everything, whether you were harvesting crops, tending cattle, or dealing with family drama. She taught me patience, taught me to wait for the right moment. Tomorrow, my family would learn what Gran and I had known all along, that sometimes the quietest person in the room held all the cards. The envelope in my safe contained more than just papers. It contained the truth about Silver Creek Ranch and its future. As the sun set behind the mountains, I took one last look at the land I loved. Let them celebrate tonight, I thought. Let them make their plans and dream their dreams of profit and progress. Tomorrow would change everything. The next morning, I walked into Mr. Harrison's office exactly at 9 a.m., dressed in my grandmother's old leather jacket. My family was already there, looking confused and slightly annoyed at being summoned. "What's this about, Eleanor?" my father demanded. "We have contractors coming to the ranch this morning to discuss the venue plans." Jessica nodded, tapping away on her phone. We've already got 3 weddings provisionally booked for next summer. The deposit money is—" "I wouldn't spend that money just yet," Mr. Harrison interrupted, pulling out a thick folder. "There's something you all need to see." He handed each of them a copy of a document, keeping his expression professionally neutral. I watched their faces as they read, savoring the moment their triumphant smiles began to fade. This can't be right," my mother stuttered, looking up at Mr. Harrison. "The ranch was transferred to Michael and Jessica yesterday." "Actually," Mr. Harrison said, "what you transferred yesterday was only the residential portion of the property, the house and immediate surroundings. The main ranch land, approximately 2,800 acres, was legally transferred to Eleanor 3 months ago, before Mrs. Mason's passing." The silence in the room was deafening. Jessica's phone slipped from her fingers, clattering on the desk. "But that's impossible," Michael protested. "Gran didn't. She wouldn't." I pulled out my own copy of the deed, along with Gran's letter. "She did. Gran knew exactly what you planned to do with the ranch. She heard you and Jessica talking about developers last Christmas, when you thought everyone was asleep." My father's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "You knew about this? All this time you let us think." "I let you show who you really are," I said quietly. "Gran wanted to be sure she was making the right choice. Yesterday proved she did." Mr. Harrison cleared his throat. "Mrs. Mason was very specific in her instructions. The main ranch land, including all grazing rights, water rights, and mineral rights, belongs to Eleanor. She also stipulated that the land must maintain its current agricultural and conservation status for a minimum of 20 years. Jessica's face crumpled. "But our plans, the venue, the ATV tracks, are not happening," I finished for her. "This land will stay exactly as Gran wanted it, a working ranch and wildlife preserve." "You can't do this," my mother snapped. "We're family." "Exactly," I replied, standing up. "We're family, and family should respect each other's connections to the land, not try to turn everything into a profit center." Mr. Harrison pulled out another document. "There's more. The residential property you now own comes with certain covenants. No commercial development is permitted within 500 feet of the main house." Mrs. Mason was quite thorough in her preparations. Michael slumped in his chair, the reality of the situation finally hitting him. "So we have the house. But you can't turn it into your event center," I confirmed. "You can live there, ranch there, be part of the land like Gran always wanted. Or you can sell it to me. I'll give you fair market value." "This is ridiculous," Jessica burst out. "You're just trying to punish us because you're jealous of what Michael and I have built." I couldn't help but laugh. "Built? You've never spent a full week working this ranch. I've spent every available moment here since I was 6. I know every inch of this land, every season, every challenge it faces." Standing up, I gathered my papers. "The choice is yours. Stay and be real ranchers or sell and move on. Either way, Silver Creek's legacy is safe." As I headed for the door, my father called out, "Eleanor, wait. Maybe we can work something out." I turned back, seeing the calculation in his eyes. "Some things never changed." "There's nothing to work out," I said firmly. "Gran made her choice, and I'm honoring it. The land stays as it is." Walking out of Mr. Harrison's office, I felt lighter than I had in months. The weight of keeping Gran's secret was finally gone, replaced by the responsibility she trusted me with. My phone buzzed. A text from Carlos, the ranch foreman who'd worked with Gran for 20 years. "Heard the news. The hands are celebrating. When do you want to start planning spring rotation?" I smiled, thinking of all the projects Gran and I had discussed during her final months. The expanded wildlife corridors, the sustainable grazing programs, the educational partnerships with local schools, all the plans she trusted me to carry out. Behind me, I could hear my family's raised voices through the office door, probably already plotting their next move. But it didn't matter anymore. Silver Creek's future was secure, just as Gran had planned. 6 months after the meeting in Mr. Harrison's office, Silver Creek Ranch was flourishing in ways my grandmother would have loved. The spring wildflowers painted the meadows in brilliant colors, and the wildlife corridors we'd established were already showing signs of increased activity. I was checking the north pasture fence line when I saw a familiar truck pulling up the main drive. Michael and Jessica had finally made their decision. "We're selling," Michael announced without preamble as I approached. "The house, The immediate property, all of it. You win, Eleanor. I wiped my hands on my jeans, studying my brother's face. He looked different, humbled, maybe. Jessica sat in the truck, her designer clothes replaced by more practical attire, though she still wouldn't meet my eyes. This was never about winning, I replied. It was about protecting what Gran built. Yeah, well, Michael shuffled his feet. We figured that out. These past months, trying to actually run even this small part of the ranch. It's not what we thought. I nodded, remembering Gran's words. The land teaches you who you really are. We've got the paperwork ready, he continued. Market value, like you offered. We're moving to Denver. Jessica's got a job offer there. As they drove away an hour later, after signing the preliminary agreements, I felt no triumph, only a quiet satisfaction. The ranch was whole again, just as it should be. That evening, as I sat on the porch of what was now my house again, my parents' car appeared on the horizon. I hadn't spoken to them since the meeting, but they'd made several attempts to reason with me. You've made your point, my mother said, settling into one of the porch chairs without waiting for an invitation. Surely now we can discuss a more family-friendly arrangement. I sipped my coffee, watching the sunset paint the hills. There's nothing to discuss. Michael and Jessica are selling their portion back to me. Silver Creek stays intact. But think about the potential, my father argued. The money we could all make if we just... Dad, I interrupted. Look around you. Really look. I pointed to the distant hills where a herd of elk was emerging from the tree line. In the nearest pasture, our cattle grazed peacefully alongside a group of pronghorn antelope. A pair of eagles circled overhead, their wings golden in the fading light. This is the potential Gran saw. This is what she protected, and this is what I'll continue to protect. My mother started to speak, but something in my expression stopped her. Perhaps she finally saw what Gran had seen, that my connection to Silver Creek went beyond profit margins and development plans. We were wrong, she said quietly, surprising me. About you, about what you could handle. Your grandmother, she knew better. She usually did, I agreed, offering her my coffee pot. For the first time in months, she accepted. As the stars began to appear, we talked, really talked, about Gran, about the ranch, about the future. My parents started to see Silver Creek through new eyes, not as a development opportunity, but as the living, breathing entity Gran had always described. 1 year after the inheritance revelation, Silver Creek Ranch hosted its first educational program for local schools. Children learned about sustainable ranching, wildlife conservation, and the delicate balance between human needs and natural preservation. Carlos, still our foreman, developed a training program for young ranchers interested in conservation-minded cattle management. The ranch became a model for how traditional ranching could coexist with wildlife protection. Jessica and Michael settled into their Denver life, occasionally sending polite holiday cards. My parents, to their credit, gradually came to appreciate the ranch for what it was rather than what it could be converted into. One evening, as I sat in Gran's old kitchen, now mine again, I found a note tucked inside her recipe box that I hadn't noticed before. Dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, the ranch is in your hands, just as it should be. You understand something the others never did, that Silver Creek isn't just land to be used, it's a legacy to be protected. Your quiet strength, your patience, your love for this place. These are the qualities of a true rancher. Remember, sometimes the biggest victories come not from fighting, but from standing firm in what you know is right. All my love, Gran. I traced her familiar handwriting, smiling as I heard the distant howl of coyotes, nature's evening chorus that Gran had loved so much. Outside, the ranch hands were finishing their day's work, the cattle were settling in for the night, and the wildlife was beginning its nocturnal dance. This was what Gran had protected all those years. This was what she trusted me to continue. Not just a ranch, but a piece of living history, a balance between human needs and natural harmony. Silver Creek Ranch wasn't just my inheritance, it was my calling, my responsibility, my home. And as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in colors Gran had taught me to name, I knew that everything was exactly as it should be.